even tag the individuals who they are tweeting about in their tweets. Last week, I had a reply from Dale Earnhardt Jr., which was awesome, to a question that I had, asking about how long it would take during the Daytona race for him to know how well the car was handling. And he said 30 to 40 laps on tires. He responded to me. It was really cool. The really frustrating part of it are the idiot fans, in my view, who take to Twitter and act like they know what's best for this team. Or they act like Greg Ives isn't working hard enough on the car. They're saying things like, get your crap together, Greg Ives. This is unacceptable. He's 32nd on the speed chart. They make a comment like that 5 minutes into a practice session when they could have been scuffing tires, which is what they were doing on Friday. I personally just wish that if you're a Dale Jr. fan, before you go spouting your mouth off on Twitter about things that you have no idea about, do your homework first. Make sure that if you're talking about practice, we're talking about practice. Make sure that if you're talking about practice, you're looking at the lap averages, or you find out what their agenda's actually been, whether or not they ran a qualifying run, or whether or not they were in race trim the whole time. I get that people are frustrated, and there's a reason to be frustrated. The finishes haven't been there for the 88 team. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, it doesn't do anybody any good to go online and shoot your mouth off about that which you have no idea what you were talking about. And for me, it's even equally more frustrating because Dale Earnhardt Jr. sees that on Twitter, and trust me, the dude has a thick enough skin now where I'm sure that he's used to dealing with it. But be that as it may, it can't be easy for Dale Jr. or perhaps a guy like Greg Ives who doesn't have quite as much experience in dealing with a public that's very vocal, being the crew chief for the most popular driver. It's the job he signed up for, but I doubt that he's used to seeing this kind of ridiculous, irrational comments from fans who think they know what they're talking about. Here's what I always default to as it relates to how the team is running and, where we're heading as a team and my expectations. Nobody cares more about making sure that Dale Earnhardt Jr. has a good finish and wins races than Hendrick Motorsports and the team. Do you not think that Greg Ives and the rest of the Dale Earnhardt Jr. crew aren't working as hard as they can? And if they could have found a solution, they would have found a solution to all of these various problems by now? Do you think that you care more than they do? I made a comment to a guy on Twitter last week where they were expressing frustration and how he was frustrated as a fan. And I just sat back and went, I bet Dale Earnhardt Jr. is more frustrated than you are. And look, it's just me. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I get it. I just get frustrated when I see people making comments without bothering to go and do their homework. If you want to be upset, as I have been, that the team isn't running as well this year as they could have, that they've gotten caught up in situations that perhaps were their own doing because they haven't figured qualifying out yet, that's fine. But also understand and cut them a little bit of slack, knowing that this team is working as hard as they can to make sure that Dale Earnhardt Jr. has the best car available to him week in and week out. And they work through the night on weekends, on race weekends, to make sure that they're doing everything they humanly can to get that car as fast as and handling as best as possible every single race. And even after the green flag drops, they still don't stop working on the car. So I just get really frustrated in times right now where, personally, I feel like as fans, we need to be more supportive to the team that we follow and that we support with our fandom and our dollars. And it doesn't help when people are irrationally getting negative at the team or at Greg Ives and blaming him and saying he needs to get fired. No, I am nowhere near the point yet where I'm ready to make a judgment call on Greg Ives. You go back and, again, track all the races this year where something has gone wrong or the finishes haven't been there, and you'll find, more than likely, some mitigating factor that doesn't always, and not even a majority of the time, have anything to do with the speed of the car in and of itself. All right, so there. I vented. Let's talk a little bit about the expectation for the race on Saturday night at Kentucky. Now, this is one of those weekends where I don't have a ton of data to go off of. The practices have been shortened. You're looking at a brand new racetrack, a new configuration. You see the usual suspects sitting on top of the speed chart, especially a lot of these Toyotas. In fact, most of the top of the speed chart. And again, you can't take a lot away from that. But be that as it may, most of the chart of the top of the speed chart is dominated by Toyotas. But when you look at the top consecutive lap averages, a lot of guys aren't running a full 10-lap averages. I haven't seen anything as it relates to Dale Jr. in that regard over the course of the practices. What is clear, though, is that the lap averages keep swapping. It doesn't seem like there's any one car or cars that is faster than anybody else as we go practice to practice to practice. And it tells me that there's a lot of teams on different agendas. On Thursday, they spent the entire practice session scuffing tires because most everybody believes that this new track configuration and the new asphalt laid down is going to be conducive to having cars that have 2 or 3 or 4 lap scuffs on them to take off quicker, and that sticker tires aren't going to be as fast. So there's not a ton to go off of. I do have, however, some good news, and that is with the rain delays that have taken place, NASCAR had postponed, or I should say canceled, qualifying. And they decided to, and I don't know exactly what the rules were, but because of the circumstances this weekend at Kentucky, they are lining up the cars via owner's points. So Dale Jr. will start 13th, which is good news, because that's usually better than he's been qualifying as of late. The other good news is it seems as if they're heading in the right direction for the car. You look over the comments that Dale Jr. was making in the last couple of practices, and it's clear that they made some pretty big gains on the car since they unloaded and started to practice on Thursday. So it looks as if they are heading in the right direction. My prediction for the race on Saturday is going to be pretty simple, and based off of, again, very limited data and hardly any commentary coming from Dale Jr. himself, I'm going to say top 10. We need a top 10. I think this team every weekend is a top 10 team. The fact that we are starting 13th on a brand new race surface where it's a clean slate for everybody, and the fact that the team has shown speed. I think there was a good chance at a top 5 finisher better at Michigan if Dale Jr. hadn't been caught up in that wreck. We know they unloaded the car fast at Sonoma. You can't really count that. It's a road course, but be that as it may, the cars do have some speed in them. And in the previous races, despite some difficulties, the car has shown some speed, especially on tracks of this size. I still have faith in Greg Ives. I just went to Twitter a moment ago, and I wish I hadn't because I saw a comment of somebody cursing at Greg Ives and saying, we need Steve Letarte back. We need Steve Letarte back because Greg Ives can't set the car up. Well, you know what? That's not happening. Get over it. Why would you want to be a fan like that? You're going to get me all fired up again, gosh darn it. No, man, I'm a fan of Dale Jr., the person, and the race car driver, and I know that Hendrick Motorsports wants nothing more, and Rick Hendrick himself wants nothing more to see this team succeed. We know how good a driver Dale Earnhardt Jr. is. Let's not get down now when the team, in my opinion, needs the support of its fans. They don't need this kind of, again, irrational commentary on Twitter from people that are just watching, happen to see one lap on a speed chart and make a judgment call. And here I am going and ranting again. All right, so I'm going to say top 10, basically because I don't have any other better data to go off of. And hopefully this is the weekend where we begin to turn things around. I don't have any doubt that once we begin to turn things around, that this team will show its true colors. And I will keep saying that those true colors, I believe, are one where we can make this chase and hopefully be in contention. If this is the time of the year when we have to go through difficulties, which is pretty typical for this team, it seems like the summertime always seems to dog down this team. But let this be the low point. Let Daytona be the low point. And let's have some confidence going in to these next few races heading towards this chase and know that nobody is working harder than the nationwide Axalta 88 team, Greg Ives, everybody surrounding Dale Jr., and the driver himself, Dale Earnhardt Jr. The one thing that I always find encouraging, too, is that when he does tweet online, he generally seems like he's in a good mood. And even during the press conference, he talked about how he was still having fun. This is not like it was back in 2008 when he joined Hendrick Motorsports, and we had just those horrible few years. We're nowhere even close to that. Not even close. We're in a bit of a spell, and we'll get out of this spell. And maybe Kentucky will be the weekend to go and break this chain of situations and unfortunate circumstances and bad luck. So I predict Dale Jr. walks away with the top 10. That would be a great way to start, rebuilding after these past couple of races, and then we'll look towards the future and this chase. And I guarantee, by the way, one more quick note on the restrictor plate cars. I guarantee they will not go back to Talladega here in a couple of weeks with the same type of setup or the same problems. I guarantee they will turn around their restrictor plate program, and I'm hoping this weekend they end up turning around just in general with a good car. And I've got all the confidence in the world in Dale Jr. and this team. So that's it. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast this week. I greatly appreciate it. If you ever want to drop me an email, if you want to vent and say I'm full of crap because of all the comments that I made about the fans that make me mad on Twitter, tweet at me. At John Justice, at John Justice on Twitter. You can also email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. Talkshownerd@gmail.com. So enjoy the race on Saturday night, and until we talk next week, go Junior!
My Nerd World.
And finally, one of the most unusual pre-race prayers you will ever hear.
Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for all your blessings. You said in all things give thanks. So we want to thank you tonight for these mighty machines that you've brought before us. Thank you for the Dodges and the Toyotas. Thank you for the Fords. And most of all, we thank you for Roush and Yates partnering to give us the power that we see before us tonight. Thank you for GM Performance Technology and the RO7 engines. Thank you for Snow Car Racing Fuel and Goodyear tires to bring performance and power to the track. Boogity, 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 amen. Boogity, boogity, boogity. My two children, Eli and Emma, or as we like to call them, the little E's. Lord, I pray you bless the drivers and use them tonight. May they put on a performance worthy of this great track. In Jesus' name, boogity, 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 amen. Boogity, 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 amen. Boogity, 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 amen. Bless the drivers and use them tonight. Lord, I want to thank you for my smoking hot wife. Boogity, boogity, boogity.
My Nerd World.